In every great conversation, there comes a moment when the quality of thinking deepens, when something new, something original begins to emerge. In Nancy Kline's Time to Think framework, this moment often starts with a core question. A core question is not just any question. It's the one that sits right at the heart of the issue. The question that, once answered, has the power to set the thinker free from a limiting assumption or a block in their thinking. You can think of it as the key that unlocks the door to a person's freshest, most independent thought. It focuses attention, releases insight, and often changes the direction of a person's entire reasoning in that moment. Core questions matter because they create clarity. They help the thinker move from confusion to understanding, from stuckness to flow. And when asked with genuine attention and respect, they remind us that the mind, given time, space, and the right question, is naturally capable of brilliance. So in this session, we'll explore what makes a core question so powerful and which are the primary core questions used within a thinking environment.
The heart of a thinking environment is not a technique. It's a pattern of questions that open, sustain, and liberate thinking. Let's explore the 5 core questions that you will see appear across all the thinking environment formats that we will discuss later in detail. Each question has a distinct purpose in the flow of thinking. The first is the opening question. What would you like to think about, and what are your thoughts? This is where ownership begins. Instead of the listener deciding the focus, the thinker chooses. It invites independent thinking by saying, you are in charge of your own mind. Once the thinker begins, the second question sustains momentum. What more do you think, or feel, or want to say? This question reopens thinking whenever it pauses. It doesn't push, it invites. Often the best insights emerge after the third or fourth "what more?" because the mind keeps discovering what it didn't know it knew. The third question begins to deepen the process. What are you assuming that is limiting your thinking? Here, the listener helps the thinker identify the invisible beliefs that keep their thinking small or stuck. It's a moment of gentle awareness, not challenge, but curiosity. Once the limiting assumption is clear, the next question examines it. Is it true? Always? This question loosens the assumption's grip. The thinker begins to see that the belief might not be a fact, but a habit of thought. And finally, we come to the incisive question, the liberating question that unlocks new possibility. If you knew, liberating truth, what would you think or do or decide? For example, if the limiting assumption was, I'm not ready, the liberating question might be, if you knew that your experience is exactly what's needed, what would you do next? This is the moment where the thinker's mind expands. Fear gives way to insight. These 5 questions, together, form the architecture of all time to think conversations. They're simple but powerful because they keep the responsibility for thinking where it belongs, with the thinker. As a thinking partner or leader, your discipline is to ask these questions with genuine curiosity, unhurried tone, and full attention. When used with presence, they unlock clarity, courage, and fresh intelligence, not by adding answers, but by clearing the space where truth can appear.
The flow of questions in a thinking environment follows the natural rhythm of how the human mind opens and frees itself to think clearly. These 5 core questions represent that journey, from initial expression to deep liberation. Let's walk through the flow. We begin with opening the mind. What would you like to think about, and what are your thoughts? This question invites independence. It signals that the thinker owns their focus, their direction, and their process. Instead of being asked, "How are you?" or "What's the problem?" they're asked, "What do you want to think about?" That shift alone changes everything. It says, your thinking matters here. Once the thinker begins, we move to sustaining the flow. What more do you think or feel or want to say? This question is deceptively simple. It tells the thinker, there's more in you, keep going. Each repetition deepens the thinking. Often the first answers are logical, but the later ones, the third, fourth, or fifth, what more, touch on insight, emotion, or truth. This is where the thinking becomes real. Then comes revealing the assumption. What are you assuming that is limiting your thinking? Every time we feel stuck, there's usually a hidden assumption beneath it. This question gently shines light on the thought that's been quietly blocking progress, a belief, a fear, or an expectation. Once the assumption is visible, the next step is testing it. Is it true? Always. This is not an interrogation, it's an invitation to look closer. Often the thinker realizes the assumption is partly true, but not universally true. That recognition loosens its grip. Finally, we arrive at releasing the mind, the moment of freedom. If you knew, liberating truth, what would you think or do or decide? This is the incisive question, the turning point where the thinker's energy changes. You can almost see it. Their posture softens, their eyes lift, the mind clears. They step into a new, unburdened way of thinking. So this flow, opening, sustaining, revealing, testing, and releasing, is the architecture of deep human thought. In ordinary conversation, we tend to jump straight to advice or solution. In a thinking environment, we walk patiently through these stages. We don't lead the thinker to an answer. We accompany them through their own discovery. And that's the essence of this process, to create the conditions where the mind can do what it does best: think freshly, bravely, and independently.